Hello friends, greetings for the day. Welcome back to another tutorial on ISTQB Foundation examination. We are here in chapter 4 and we were talking about experience-based testing techniques in the previous tutorial. Right before this, we covered understanding on the error guessing, and you can always go back and look into that in case you have not been through. And we'll be talking about the topic which is experience-based techniques still, because we have one more topic to go ahead. But before that, let's understand what is experience-based technique is all about. From the previous tutorial, we have already understood that experience-based techniques, unlike formal techniques, makes use of tester skills, intuitions, and experience of the similar applications which they have dealt with previously in their past experience, and that's the only source of information. Maybe to some extent the typical defects information could be also a source of information, or can become the test basis to derive the test cases. Moreover, when you talk about formal techniques, all your black box techniques, white box techniques, which requires the requirements clearly defined and so on, and require some kind of test basis can be used to derive the test cases, are called as formal techniques. But obviously, these techniques are limited to proper documentation and understanding of the testing techniques as well. But there are cases when we do not have some time that, when you see like few of the scenarios where experience-based technique is the primary approach. So generally, experience-based techniques are not the primary approach. They are the secondary approaches. Once formal techniques are applied, test cases are executed, you go ahead with your applying more experience to have a better confidence or better coverage. But there are ways by which you cannot go ahead with the formal techniques, and all you have the option is to go ahead with experience-based techniques. So here we have three of the conditions which you can see as an example where we can go ahead with experience-based techniques before we can go with formal techniques altogether. So if you see when the specifications are poorly defined, that means when the requirements are not clearly defined, or not detailed, which can help you to apply your formal techniques and proceed with your preparation of the test cases. There's also other condition when you talk about the time pressure. When the time pressure is when you're running out of time and you need to execute or have a more coverage compared to what you have been so far, then obviously in that short iteration or short period of time, all you can do is experience-based techniques, because you don't have enough time to go through the documentation and prepare formal test cases, execute them, log the result, and so on. So you can skip those things and also continue directly with deriving test cases from your past experience and typical defect data. Testing team is not formally trained on testing fundamentals. That's also equally important when we talk about implementing experience-based technique, that there are cases when the test team, what you have within your organization, is domain expert. They have very good domain knowledge, but they are not well trained on the testing practices. Like, they are not aware of testing techniques. So say, for example, when you talk about automobile industry, you talk about aerospace, you talk about banking, the testing team might be from a banking background, but it's not mandatory they are well versed with the testing principles, testing practices. So the only option what they have is experience-based technique, because they know what the banking application must do and where all we can find the typical defects which they have learned in their past experience and so on. So there are few scenarios. All I wanted to say here is that where we can go ahead with experience-based techniques without interfering the formal techniques. So as you have understood, let's move to the technique. What we are talking about in this tutorial is exploratory testing, which is again at K2. You do not have to apply this technique. All you have to do is understand. When you talk about exploratory testing, it is slightly different than the error guessing. Here, obviously, the source of information or source of testing becomes the information or knowledge about the typical defects what you have been encountering in the previous projects, and obviously the past experience about the similar applications. So you can relate it back to your different domains. When you talk about like automobile, you talk about banking, aerospace, safety criticals, and all those things. So this past experience basically help you to prepare the test data, and based on that you can go ahead. But in exploratory testing, you do not prepare test cases. That's the only difference. When you talk about error guessing, there we prepare the test cases, but when you talk about exploratory, we do not prepare test cases. Instead, you try to allocate a part of the application which is supposed to be explored. So what you do here is basically you consult, maybe after applying formal techniques or not, or you have a time pressure or something, you consult that which are the areas of the module or maybe the application which has some typical type of risk involved, or we generally find defects in this area. So based on certain conditions, again, that typical defects and past experience comes into picture, and you will define the area which need to be explored. And there will be a specific time limit allocated for this exploratory session where you define between 30 minutes to 120 minutes, and you go ahead and explore the module or the area associated. So during this exploration, you do not have any test cases, you do not log any results, you just keep observing as you explore. And this exploration would basically involve no kind of orientation, rather it will just have an ad hoc or random approach which you can follow during this session. We can make use of certain thing called as a test charter, which will be having the objectives of the exploratory sessions, that why are you conducting, who will be conducting, what will be the time allocated, and several other things about it which will be specified in the test charter, but we are not exploring it right now. You can just remember the term for the information. Now beyond that, obviously the time allocation which is done is between 30 minutes to 120 minutes, which is dependent on the size of area what you've selected for exploratory testing. So depending on the size of the module or size of the area covered, you define the time allocation, and based on that you execute it only for that duration and stop. And once the execution stops, you can come back and report to your manager with the observations what you experienced during the exploratory testing. So we can also call it like a time box test session, where it is obviously limited, does not have indefinite time limit or something. So we basically generally call exploratory testing as test sessions or time boxed test sessions more precisely. So when it comes to exploratory, in agile, entire thing is mostly conducted as exploratory, because about the documentation part is poorly defined, or we have very brief documentation at very high level, so it's difficult for us to implement the formal techniques. But at any point of time, we do not say, even in agile practices, that we cannot apply formal techniques. We can apply, subjected to the necessary information is available in those high level documents as well. We can go ahead and apply formal techniques, but commonly we prefer to have exploratory testing, because we do understand that there is a customer interaction involved, customer intervention is there, so we basically tend to do less mistakes at the beginning level. So exploratory is inherently your agile practice. So right now from this is the exploratory testing, understanding of what exploratory testing is all about. Beyond this, you can explore at your own understanding, or maybe you can expect something more about this from the advanced level, not now. So from foundation, this is all it is. We'll be coming back with upcoming tutorials on the next chapters, or there'll be something remaining from this, so we'll be concluding that in the upcoming tutorial. So stay tuned for more videos. In case you have any comments, queries, doubts, clarifications, please feel free to comment it below, and I'll just get back to you with more details on that. Thanks for watching, team. This is all for now. We have more videos coming up on the upcoming tutorials and also on the upcoming chapters of this tutorial. So stay tuned for more videos. Do hit the bell icon for getting notified about the latest videos, and in case you have not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe as early as possible, because we'll be having more videos about technologies and testing coming up back after this, right after this. So stay tuned, and till then, enjoy learning, happy learning, take care.